In this tutorial, we will be going over a way to create keychains and earrings using Adobe Illustrator. Just briefly before we even begin the tutorial, I want to point out that you will need the Adobe suite in order to complete this project. If you don't have it installed on your computer already, you will need to go to self-service, which you can get to here. And then what you're going to be searching for is Creative Cloud. So this is what you're going to need to download. Here's Adobe Creative Cloud, which you can install from the self-service menu. And then I would also recommend that you use the guide to help you know how to log in. Adobe does not log in the same way that a lot of the other services that we use on campus log in. So you're not going to use log in using Google. And you'll just want to make sure that you read that guide to make sure that you install it and log into it correctly. But once you've done that, you should be able to get into Illustrator and begin the project. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is get the template which we have provided. This will either be on your Schoology page as a downloadable file or via Google Drive. Either way, you just want to download that file to your computer, either on your desktop or to a folder of your choosing. And then if you've already got Adobe Illustrator and the Creative Cloud suite installed, you should be able to just double click on that file and it will bring up this image. So one thing to know about Adobe Illustrator, if you've done any kind of art or design work using things like Photoshop or even just the simple Microsoft Paint tool, if you have a Microsoft computer at home, you will probably pretty quickly recognize that Illustrator works a little bit differently. So Illustrator is not a bitmap based drawing tool. It's a vector tool. So that essentially means that we are drawing lines that the computer can essentially calculate and recalculate based on their size. So unlike a bitmap image, which when you zoom into it, you can see those individual pixels, an image that is vector based, the more you zoom in, it doesn't actually change the pixelation at all because it is just a vector. So the way that we've got this image set up is we have a template, and this is the red line is what's going to get cut out, and then you will be able to decorate and put material into the interior of this image that can then either be cut out to make a sort of intricate pattern, or it can be engraved so that you have a kind of image on the piece itself. In Illustrator, if you come over and look at the layers over here, you'll see that there are two layers. One that says template, and we can drag this out a little bit, do not edit. So this is the actual shape of the template plus the hole here that are going to be cut. And the green layer is where you will add in your art. So this is step one, is just getting the template loaded up onto Illustrator so that you can see it. All right, step two is that we need to find some content to put onto our earring or onto our keychain. And the best place to do this is a website that we have been using in the Catalyst Lab and as part of our innovation programming for quite a long time. It's called the Noun Project. So you're going to open up either Chrome or whatever browser it is that you're using, and I'm going to pull this in from over here. And you're going to go to, you can actually just search it up, Noun Project. Here it is. Yours may come up on Google. I just want to make sure. Okay. So when you first get into the Noun Project, you are going to need to create an account. This is a free account that you can create. You can even sign in with Google and use your school account. My school account is a little bit different, so I'm going to sign in with my personal Google just so that it will look the same as when you all are doing it. The Noun Project is essentially a website that has all kinds of different icons, and you can use these icons to create special kind of little images on your design. So if I wanted to search, for example, a flower design, there's a lot of different choices here that I can scroll down and see, kind of like this one right here. That looks sort of appropriate for Day of the Dead. Maybe this. Typically what you want to look for that would work well for this project are designs that are not necessarily super intricate. For example, something like this. This would not work as well for the laser cut. You could engrave this image, but to laser cut this would be quite complicated. It's not to say that it's impossible, but it would just require a little bit more work. Some of these are quite interesting. I think I'm going to choose this one right here. And then you would click Get This Icon. It's going to offer you the option of purchasing it, but we're actually going to just do a basic download, which is free. Click Continue. And then this is really important. We want to download the SVG version of this file. We do not want the PNG. We want the SVG version of the file, which we'll click there. And then it will give us the option to download it. I'm going to just download this to my desktop for now, which it does. And that gives us our icon from the noun project. So now we need to get this into the earring or keychain template that we're using in Adobe Illustrator. So we can go back to Illustrator, and we're going to go up to File and Place. So this is essentially a sort of import function. So we're going to hit Place, and then we're going to find our flower. So here it is. It's very important that none of these boxes right here are checked, particularly the link box. We want to make sure that we are importing the full file. If we have link checked, it's just going to import a copy of it that doesn't actually allow us to laser cut later on in the process. So highlight our flower, and then we're in here, and to begin with, we're just going to place it off to the side. So you can see it's quite large. You can zoom out here. And the first thing we're going to do is over on the left-hand side, we've got all of our different tools that we use in Illustrator. So we're going to use our direct selection tool, which is this second arrow. And we're just going to highlight the text underneath the flower and delete that. And then we can go back to our selection tool, and that should allow us then to, let's see here. Okay, so there's some other stuff here. Sometimes you'll see this in these files from the noun project. What we want is for the bounding box when we use the selection tool to just be this flower. So I'm going to go back to my direct selection tool and see if I can find any other things down here that may need to be deleted. So I'm going to delete those, whatever all that stuff was. All right, that's what we want. So just our single flower. So we have a couple of options here. We could just leave it like this and make it smaller. So there's a couple of things. You'll notice that in Adobe Illustrator, by default, you can change the proportions of an image. You can scale it either way, vertically or horizontally. If you want it to be consistent in its scaling from the original, just even if you've accidentally started already, if you just hold down Shift, now it's going back to direct proportions to the original. And we can scale this way down. We can zoom back in. And now we can drag this onto our earring, just like this. You have some options here in terms of being able to rotate this. You can, there's a lot of ways that you can sort of create interesting patterns that Illustrator has built into it. We'll get to those in a little bit. Another option here would be to maybe do a laser cut of part of this pattern. So in Illustrator, as I mentioned earlier, you're drawing with lines basically. And so Illustrator has two ways of understanding an object. And these two things are called fill and stroke. Fill is basically when you have lines and you've colored in between them with whatever color it is that you want, in this case black. So just like you would do in a coloring book, you have lines, you're going to fill that with some sort of shade. The other option is to have a stroke color, which is, in this case, for your lines themselves to have some kind of color. So right now, our outline has a stroke color of red, And our object, our flower, has no stroke color, but it is filled with the color black. But if we want to cut, we have to have lines for the laser cutter to follow. So right here, we can actually switch around whether or not we're working with fill or whether we're working with stroke. And so if we just click this little swap, now we've got all of our lines are outlined, but no color in between. Now you can see the lines are a little bit thick, and they probably won't work. If we were to try to cut all of this, we would just end up with only the outline of the flower itself. So what we could do is we can sort of fill in some of this together so that it doesn't come out as just one big empty space. So we're going to use our Shape Builder tool. And Shape Builder basically allows you, as you can see in the example here, you can color in all of these circles and make them into a single shape. And that's basically what we're going to do with part of our flower here. So I'm going to see kind of how this comes out. Hopefully it will be sort of okay. So we've got different areas of our flower here. So we could bring in something like this. And now we've got a fairly simple shape that would cut out both this and this circle. We could, if we wanted to, get rid of the entire and just have this interior portion. So again, there's some different options in terms of how you make your image, what you do with it. Engraving is just going to kind of burn the image into the surface of whatever material you're using, either wood or paper or acrylic. And with cutting, of course, you are physically removing material. So these are kind of the basics. Some other things that you can do here, if you go up to object in the menu, you can create interesting patterns. You can repeat. This is one that I've used. So for example, you can do a radial pattern and change the way that the flower looks. So we could do something like this and then bring this into the center of our project here, right? So again, a lot of different options, a lot of different tools. The main thing that you want to be able to do is get Adobe Illustrator installed. You want to be able to get different icons from the Noun project. You can obviously combine icons. I've got another one here that I downloaded earlier. For example, this. I could place this here. Same process as before. Just want to get rid of this material down at the bottom. And now I've got, still got some stuff down here. And now I've got this flower as well that I can resize and bring into my file. So I could even do something like this. It's a nice little design. So those are the basics of what you need to know to get started using Adobe Illustrator and the Noun project to create either your earring or your keychain in order to celebrate Day of the Dead.